Why billionaires think like chess players. The mental secret that changes everything. The mental trap keeping you broke while others get rich. When Garry Kasparov crushed Deep Blue in their first match, he wasn't just beating a supercomputer, he was proving that the human mind, when properly calibrated, operates on a level that raw processing power can never reach. And what he knew in that moment is the same principle that separates billionaire CEOs from middle managers, elite athletes from weekend warriors, and legends from footnotes in history. You know what's crazy? Most people think chess is about being smart, but I've spent years studying the greatest strategic minds in history, and here's what blew my mind. Intelligence has almost nothing to do with it. Picture this: Magnus Carlsen, the current world chess champion, sitting across from a supercomputer that can calculate millions of moves per second. The machine is running algorithms that would make NASA jealous. But Magnus? He's not even sweating. He's calm, focused, and he's about to destroy that computer using something no algorithm can replicate. What you don't see is what's happening in Magnus's mind. While that computer is brute forcing through possibilities, Magnus has already seen the endgame. He's not calculating the next move, he's playing a game that won't end for another 20 moves. He's thinking in systems, not steps. This is what I call strategic time travel, the ability to mentally live in your desired future and reverse engineer the path to get there. And it's not just chess players who do this. Every high performer I've studied has mastered this skill. Think about Elon Musk for a second. When he started Tesla, electric cars were a joke. The infrastructure didn't exist. The technology was primitive. The market wasn't ready. But Musk wasn't building for 2008, he was building for 2024. He saw the endgame and worked backwards. Jeff Bezos didn't start Amazon to sell books. He knew books were just the opening move in a much larger game: total commerce dominance. While his competitors were optimizing for quarterly profits, Bezos was playing a 20-year chess match. Here's the brutal truth. You're probably living in reactive mode. Something happens, you respond. A problem appears, you solve it. An opportunity knocks, you grab it. That's not strategy, that's survival. And survival thinking keeps you trapped in mediocrity. The difference between chess players and regular people isn't IQ, it's time horizon. Most people optimize for this week, this month, maybe this year. Chess masters optimize for the endgame. They sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term dominance. I learned this the hard way. For years, I was making smart moves that felt right in the moment, but led nowhere meaningful. I was playing checkers when life is chess. Linear thinking in a multi-dimensional world. Everything changed when I started asking different questions. Instead of, what should I do next? I started asking, where do I want to be in 10 years, and what moves will get me there? Instead of, what opportunity should I take? I started asking, what opportunities should I sacrifice for the bigger win? The strategic thinking exercise. Right now, grab a piece of paper, draw 3 columns. Where I am today, where I want to be in 5 years, and the moves between them. Pick one major goal and fill this out. Don't overthink it, just start mapping your game. This exercise separates dreamers from strategists. Dreams float in your head. Strategy lives on paper and then becomes reality. The most successful people I know don't just have goals, they have strategic clarity. They can see the entire board while you're focused on one piece. They understand that every decision is connected to every other decision. They play the metagame. You want to know why some people seem to have all the luck? It's not luck. It's strategic positioning. They put themselves in the right place at the right time because they saw it coming 10 moves ago. Here's what's going to happen. You're either going to keep reacting to life as it happens to you, or you're going to start happening to life. You're either going to keep playing checkers, or you're going to learn chess. If the idea that you can literally engineer your future by thinking like a chess master resonates with you, drop a comment. And if you want to discover the second principle that separates good strategists from legendary ones, the one that goes against everything they taught you about success, make sure you're subscribed. Because what I'm about to reveal will flip your entire worldview upside down. Why 99% fail where 1% dominate. The master's secret method. Bobby Fischer was losing. At 13 years old, in what would become known as the game of the century, he was down material against Donald Byrne. Any rational player would have played defensively, but Fischer did something that shocked the chess world. He sacrificed his queen. That suicidal move didn't just win him the game, it revealed the psychological principle that separates elite performers from everyone else. What Fischer understood at 13 is something most people never learn. It's not about what you can win right now. It's about what you can win in the end. And this mindset of calculated consequences is what separates amateurs from masters in every field. You're making the same mistake I made for years. The mistake of optimizing for the next move, instead of calculating consequences 5, 10, 15 steps ahead. It's like driving in fog with your headlights off. You might make progress, but eventually, you're going to crash. Here's the hard truth I discovered studying strategic minds. They're not smarter than you. They just calculate differently. While you see one decision, they see a chain reaction. While you're thinking about today, they're already living tomorrow. Warren Buffett doesn't buy stocks for next quarter's earnings. He buys companies he wants to own for the next decade. While day traders are chasing quick wins, Buffett is playing a different game entirely. Same board, different time horizon. Steve Jobs didn't create the iPhone to compete with BlackBerry. He saw that mobile computing would eventually replace desktop computing and positioned Apple to own that future. While competitors were improving keyboards, Jobs was eliminating them entirely. The human brain is terrible at calculating consequences. We're wired for immediate rewards. We see the cookie, we want it now. We see the deal, we want to buy today. We see the opportunity, we want to grab it immediately. But masters have trained their brains to ask the question that changes everything. And then what? And then what? And then what? The art of strategic calculation has 3 levels that I discovered by studying historical games. Level 1: immediate consequences. What happens next move? Most people stop here. This is checkers thinking, linear and predictable. Level 2: cascade consequences. How does my decision affect the next 3 decisions? This is where you start playing real chess. Level 3: systemic consequences. How does this choice reshape the entire game? This is master level thinking. This is where Fischer operated at 13. Think about your last major decision. Did you get married? Start a business? Quit a job? Move to a new city? Which level were you operating on? Be honest. The answer explains a lot about where you are today. Here's what's fascinating. Chess masters developed a specific technique for this called reverse analysis. They start by imagining the ideal end position and calculate backwards to figure out which moves would get them there. It's like solving a puzzle starting with the final picture. But here's the paradox. The more you train to see the future, the more present you become. Because every moment becomes an opportunity to position your pieces for the final victory. The consequence calculator exercise. Think of a decision you need to make this week. Now imagine you have a time machine and can see 3 scenarios. Scenario A if you choose yes, Scenario B if you choose no, and Scenario C if you find a third option. Write 1 paragraph describing your life in each scenario 2 years from now. Which scenario would you choose if you could see the future? Most people make decisions like they're choosing what to have for dinner. Masters make decisions like they're sculpting their destiny. The difference isn't talent, it's method. The biggest breakthrough in my strategic thinking came when I realized that every decision is really 3 decisions in one: the decision itself, the decision it enables, and the decision it eliminates. Masters see all 3 simultaneously. When you understand that your current choices are creating your future options, everything changes. You stop asking, what do I want now? And start asking, what do I want to want? If you recognize that you've been making level 1 decisions when you could be operating at level 3, and if you want to learn the 3rd principle of masters, the most powerful and counterintuitive one of all, drop a comment. Because what you're about to discover goes against everything society taught you about success. The counterintuitive sacrifice that separates legends from losers. Leonardo da Vinci died considering himself a failure. He left hundreds of unfinished projects, half-completed paintings, and inventions that never worked. But today, we know he wasn't failing, he was doing something only absolute masters understand. He was sacrificing the present to conquer eternity. If I told you that the key to maximum performance isn't winning more, but losing strategically, you'd think I'm crazy, right? Yet this is exactly what separated geniuses like Da Vinci, Tesla, Van Gogh, and Mozart from all their successful contemporaries. In chess, there's a move that terrifies amateurs: the sacrifice. Trading your queen to win the game, giving up a rook to capture the king. It's counterintuitive, painful, and looks like strategic suicide. But masters know that sacrifice isn't loss, it's compound investment in the future. Here's the truth society doesn't want you to know. You're being conditioned to play not to lose, when you should be playing to win everything. And there's a massive difference between these two mindsets. Steve Jobs got fired from the company he founded. To any outside observer, he had failed spectacularly. But Jobs used that failure as fuel to create Pixar, and then returned to Apple with a revolutionary vision. What looked like defeat was actually the strategic sacrifice that transformed him into history's greatest innovator. The problem is our society worships accumulation. More money, more status, more security, more comfort. But masters know something disturbing. Accumulation is paralysis. The more you have to lose, the fewer risks you're willing to take. Less experimentation, less innovation, less evolution. Vincent van Gogh sold only one painting in his lifetime, died poor and unsuccessful, but every canvas he wasted, every technique he failed to perfect, every moment he lost painting instead of working at something useful, these were strategic sacrifices for something great, redefining art forever and revealing something that took years to understand. Studying genius biographies, they didn't fear failure because they understood that strategic failure is valuable information disguised as defeat. Every mistake brought them closer to discovery. Every waste refined their vision. The math of strategic sacrifice works like this. You give up 90% of mediocre opportunities to become exceptional at the 10% that actually matter. It's like an investor who passes on 1,000 small deals to find the one that multiplies their wealth by 100x. But here's the paradox that fascinates me most. To sacrifice strategically, you need a vision so clear of your end goal that everything else becomes secondary. Da Vinci didn't finish projects not because he was scattered, but because each experiment brought him closer to understanding the fundamental principles of creation. Think about the last 5 years of your life. How many opportunities did you say yes to out of fear of missing out? How many did you say no to in service of something bigger? The ratio between these two answers explains why you are where you are. The strategic sacrifice test. List 3 things you have right now that give you security but limit your growth. Could be a stable but purposeless job, a comfortable but stagnant relationship, a predictable but unchallenging routine. Now imagine you can only keep one of these 3. Which would you sacrifice first, and why? The answer reveals whether you're playing not to lose or playing to win everything. Amazon didn't make a profit for almost 10 years. Wall Street called Bezos crazy, but he was sacrificing short-term profits for long-term market domination. Every dollar he didn't make in profit was a dollar invested in infrastructure that would eventually crush all competition. Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. That failure didn't break him, it forged him. He used that rejection as fuel to outwork everyone else. The sacrifice of his ego became the foundation of his greatness. The genius question: what would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail for 10 years? Your first answer is your ego talking. Your second answer, after thinking for 10 minutes, is your genius talking. Here's the final truth about strategic sacrifice. It's not about losing, it's about choosing consciously what deserves your life energy. It's about becoming ruthlessly selective with your time, attention, and resources. The masters didn't sacrifice randomly. They sacrificed everything that wasn't their highest contribution to the world. They said no to good so they could say yes to great. If you identified something in your life that you need to sacrifice to reach the next level, and if you have the courage to discover how to transform that loss into your greatest strategic advantage, drop a comment. Because there's a 4th dimension of master strategy that's going to connect everything we've discovered so far. How to build a legacy that lasts centuries, the ultimate formula. When Garry Kasparov lost to Deep Blue in 1997, he wasn't just losing a chess match. He was witnessing the moment humanity passed the torch of strategic intelligence to machines. But what he did after that defeat revealed the difference between competing and transcending, between temporary success and eternal impact. Instead of retiring in defeat, Kasparov did something extraordinary. He began studying how humans and machines could collaborate. He understood that his real game wasn't against IBM, it was against irrelevance. And this legacy mindset is what separates temporary masters from eternal ones. Have you ever wondered why we still know names like Aristotle, Marcus Aurelius, and Leonardo da Vinci centuries after their deaths? It's not because they were the richest or most powerful people of their time. It's because they understood something profound. True high performance isn't measured by what you achieve, but by what you leave behind. The most revolutionary concept I discovered studying historical masters is this: they weren't just playing to win their current game. They were playing to influence games that would be played decades, centuries later. It was meta-strategy at its highest level. Marcus Aurelius didn't write meditations to become a bestseller. He wrote personal notes to himself, refining his philosophy day by day. But those intimate reflections became the most influential leadership manual in history. Why? Because he was optimizing not for external approval, but for genuine internal growth. Here's the legacy paradox. The more you try to create a legacy consciously, the less authentic it becomes. True legacies emerge as byproducts of an obsessive pursuit of excellence, not as goals themselves. The digital age created a dangerous illusion. We confuse visibility with impact. Millions of followers, likes, views. But vanity metrics don't build lasting legacies. What builds them is invisible consistency, the discipline no one sees, the continuous improvement no one applauds, the integrity no one monitors. I'm revealing something that changed my perspective on success. Historical masters had a peculiar relationship with recognition. They desired it, but didn't depend on it. They worked as if they were anonymous, but created as if they were immortal. Van Gogh painted his masterpieces for an audience of one, himself. Tesla invented not for immediate profit, but because he saw an energetic future others couldn't imagine. Emily Dickinson wrote poetry she kept in drawers, refining her art without seeking external validation. What they understood, and what most people never learn, is this: legacy isn't about being remembered. It's about causing impact. It's about planting trees whose shade you'll never enjoy, but that will protect future generations. Think about your current routine. How many of your daily actions are directed toward immediate results versus compound growth? How many of your decisions will be relevant 10 years from now? This analysis reveals whether you're building a legacy or just reacting to the present. The legacy question: if you could write a letter to someone 50 years in the future explaining why your life mattered, what would you say? Not about your achievements or possessions, but about problems you helped solve, people you inspired, knowledge you contributed to humanity. The first answer that comes is your ego impulse. The answer that comes after 10 minutes of reflection is your true purpose. Here's the final technique of masters. They measured their progress not by comparison with contemporaries, but by approximation to their maximum potential. The real competition wasn't with others, it was with previous versions of themselves. The most powerful legacy isn't a monument with your name on it. It's an improvement in the world that happened because you were here. It's an idea you planted that flourished in other minds. It's a standard of excellence you established that inspired others to surpass it. The legacy exercise: define 3 principles that will guide your decisions for the next 10 years, regardless of external circumstances. Write them as if they were your life philosophy constitution. Review monthly. These principles will become your strategic DNA. Chess taught us that masters don't play against opponents, they play against mediocrity. They don't compete for temporary prizes, they build systems of sustainable excellence. They don't seek quick victories, they cultivate exponential growth. The greatest chess players in history aren't remembered for their wins and losses. They're remembered for how they changed the game itself. Bobby Fischer revolutionized opening theory. Garry Kasparov showed how humans could use computers as partners. Magnus Carlsen proved that intuition and calculation could coexist. Your life is your game. Every decision is a move. Every day is a turn. And you have two choices. Keep reacting like an amateur, or start thinking like a master who's playing for something bigger than today's score. The masters understood that true victory isn't individual, it's collective. When you elevate your game, you elevate everyone around you. When you raise your standards, you give others permission to raise theirs. If you understand that your life is truly a chessboard, that every decision is a strategic move, and that your real opponent is the limited version of who you were yesterday, drop a comment. And if this content shifted something in your perspective about high performance, share it with someone who needs to stop playing checkers when life is chess. Because the world needs more people thinking like masters, playing for legacies that outlast lifetimes. The game never ends, but the way you play it, that's what makes all the difference.